This is part two, and this is more patients. And the name of the paper is Reversal of Cognitive Decline, a Therapeutic Program developed by Dr. Breedson. And I'm presenting his information from his paper in a way that I think is more palatable for people. But hopefully, you've already watched part one. So, important aspects of his protocol, which again is not a pill that you take. If it were a pill, you would have millions of dollars pushing the advertising, so you'd know about it. Um, this is some of the aspects of things that you need to do if you want to prevent or reverse Alzheimer's, according to him, and according to these many case studies that I've already gone through, and many more I'll show. Okay, so you need to fast at least 3 hours before sleeping. So if you go to bed at 10, you need to stop eating before 7 p.m. And you need to have at least 12 hours between your evening and your morning meals. Gluten-free diet, yoga, or some other form of mindfulness, meditation. And I believe he's using transcendental meditation. He doesn't say that, but it's 20 minutes twice a day, so that's transcendental meditation. And then a number of natural agents, including curcumin, fish oil, vitamin D, a lot of others. Some of them I've already talked about in part one. And Breedson acknowledges that all patients can't do everything in the protocol, and the people I presented to you and will present didn't, but they saw improvement nevertheless. Okay, so this is a patient that was not presented in part one. Again, this is not a picture of her, it's just a picture created by a computer. 67-year-old woman with 2 years of progressive memory loss. When she would read, by the time she got to the bottom of the page, she'd have to start again because she forgot what she just read, and she was no longer able to remember numbers, like phone numbers, and needed to write down even a 4-digit number to remember it. So she was going to commit suicide, but instead she began the MEND protocol. And she adhered to some, but not all. This is the key point here. And I don't think any patients adhere to all. And I'm throwing some other things in that weren't in his MEND protocol. So, but anyway, people didn't do it all. So I've summarized some of this stuff, and I'm going to go through it really quickly now, and we'll go into more depth in later videos. So optimizing the diet, minimizing simple CHO, minimizing inflammation, and so low glycemic, low grain diets, low inflammatory. Enhance the autophagy ketogenesis, that's the fasting, 12 hours each night, 3 hours before bedtime. Okay, and the rationale behind that is just basically minimizing inflammation, minimizing insulin resistance, and reducing insulin levels, which, is linked to Alzheimer's. Okay, under reducing stress, yoga, meditation, 8 hours of sleep, and in the other video, I mentioned the importance of choline to promote sleep. He talked about melatonin, but I have found personally that, and other people I've spoken to, that it wears off after a while. So I think meditation, actually, especially transcendental meditation, is a way to get into the sleep that you need very effectively. And then reducing stress. So, yoga, meditation, even listening to music, and I do talk a little bit about that. And the idea was just basically to reduce cortisol, which is the neurological construct that's associated with that. Okay, exercising and brain simulation. I think that should be stimulation, actually. Yeah, stimulation, sorry. And so that is 30 to 60 minutes per day, 4 to 6 days a week. And that's why I had that Excel spreadsheet to create a shared community of people, because it's hard to commit to this unless you've got a buddy and other people who are holding you accountable. And then brain stimulation. Now, this is a little controversial because there's some questions about that, and I'll get to that in a moment. But in terms of physical activity, it's linked. There's a lot of research. Here's one paper linking physical activity to the growth of the hippocampus. Again, hippocampus is part of your brain where memories are stored. Now, the data for brain stimulation, got it right this time, the apps is weak. That's what I was talking about, the controversy, because they don't really have good control groups for most of the studies they did, and the other people who are not using the app need to be doing something that has equal time and effort. Otherwise, you can't claim that your brain training app is helping them, because it could have been any game or any activity could have helped them. And so very few studies have been done to meet these standards, and those who are willing to engage in these apps, they may be pre-selecting themselves. So, You look at what someone like this person, the neuroscientist at Oxford, this is a picture of her, Dorothy Bishop, she says that the games tend to have people staying at home in solitary activities. Maybe it would be better to have them getting out and being social and doing something fun and maybe learning a foreign language. Or you look at music. This is a study done in 2008. Listening to music and generates cortical activity, and learning to read music that can promote physiological changes in the brain. So again, some kind of brain stimulation, but I think making sure it's something you enjoy would be an important part of that. So that's the first 6. And then the MEN protocol includes more than 24 holistic interventions. And patients can do as many as they can. Now, before we end part 2, this one's a little shorter, but this is important. So basically, committing and sticking to these is hard. If you're paying your doctor, if you're seeing this doctor, which probably you can't see because he's probably too busy. I mean, he has a book out. But it's really about committing and sticking to them. There's not more. I'm going to give you all the information you need to know from his papers and the other papers and the other research. But the point is that I'm creating this a link here. So I want to give this presentation to groups. They can just click on this link and they can then be part of a community. So you commit to what you're going to do, and you stick to them, and then you have a buddy. So almost nothing worth accomplishing can be done alone. Your buddy's going to pull you along, and the buddy holds you accountable, and that's how you stick to these programs. You can also pay a doctor lots of money, and you feel like, oh, I'm paying him, or paying her, so I have to do it. But it can be expensive. So what I'm just saying is, let's just create this group, and maybe at some point I'll have a small monthly fee just to help put the word out. Because, like I said, basically I'm talking on YouTube into small groups of people, but pharmaceutical companies have that huge war chest of money to get their drugs out there, and none of their drugs are actually working. So I just think it'd be nice to raise a little bit of money to get the word out, but we'll see. So then here's item 7. Now we're going to get a little more technical. So this is homocysteine, and you want your level to be under 7. And basically, this is something that builds up in your blood if you eat meat. And so there are some studies, I think I mentioned in the earlier video, maybe it was in this video, but about the MIND diet. And the issue with that is that it does have some meat in it, not red meat, but it has some meat in it. So you've got to be very careful about how much you're eating, if any. And if you're a vegan or vegetarian, I mentioned issues about that, like nutritional yeast for your B12. Anyway, side note, if you have a high level of homocysteine, you have a risk factor for heart disease. Anyway, so if your level's under 7, then you're going to have low levels of B6, B12, and folate, renal disease. So again, that's why I talk about nutritional yeast and the other things I talk about. So you may want to reduce your meat intake and increase your vitamin B12, B6, folic acid. Now, there's a home blood test. It's $34. But I just say, assume you're under 7 and just increase your B6, B12, and folate, right? Use that money, $34, to buy food and nutritional supplements. Now, if you're vegetarian or considering that choice, then eggs might be important, or fortified cereal or nutritional yeast, because the B12 is important. Low B12 has been linked to dementia. So B12 is an essential vitamin required for DNA synthesis, which affects your neurological functioning. And so if you have less B12, then you have these deficiencies, or maybe you have some kind of malabsorption going on, and this can lead to irritability, dementia, depression, or psychosis. So you can find B12 in eggs, milk. I cross cheese out because cheese has a lot of issues, so I would not stay away from cheese. And yogurt. And the milk, you got to make sure where it's sourced from. You don't want cows that have been taking antibiotics. Anyway, there are, I think in my video, later or before, I have a reference to a nutritional yeast that doesn't have any artificial flavors. They call them natural flavors, but they're not natural. Okay, but folic acid, folate, here are some things that are powerful with that. This image at the bottom is the leaves. The leaves are actually more nutritious in broccoli, but it's hard to get them. So you might want to grow your own. And anyway, legumes, asparagus, leafy greens, beets, citrus fruits, Brussels sprouts, all have folate. Okay, so not part of MEN, but solid evidence for choline. So there's links between sleep disturbances, dementia, and being short on choline. And if you have sleep disturbance, then you have less choline. So there's a research study on that I can send you if you're interested. But reductions in choline lead to less acetylcholine, which is a neurotransmitter, so your cells can't talk to each other, so you can't perform tasks that require attention. So there's the step-by-step process. And basically, you just need this neurotransmitter. And so I have this joke with this guy chatting on the phone, but really chat is this process of conversion. Okay. So having choline deficiency has been linked to brain abnormalities consistent with Alzheimer's and is believed to contribute to cognitive decline experienced by these patients. And I have those 3 studies if you want. So we've known about this since the 1990s when this show was on television. But just the word is just not getting out there. So let's talk about choline, and then we'll leave it there. So choline is found in many foods. Again, meat, but it's got issues. That's why I make eggs in bold. Beans, nuts, peas, spinach, and if you're a vegan or if you're eating junk food or processed food, and you may be at risk of low choline. So these pills, which I have, and peas and spinach might be really important. All right, I'm going to wrap it up there, and please comment below if you're interested in getting more information. And eventually I'll set up a website and email and all that stuff. But again, I'm making my living as a speech-language pathologist in a school, so I don't really have time to do a lot of that stuff. And this is the catch-22, right? We've got to get the word out there. I'm willing to go travel, get on a plane, and give lectures, but the question is, how do we fund these things? So that's why I said I might have a system where there's a small fee to become part of a club, and we just support each other in this. And I say myself too, because my father has dementia, so I'm in a high-risk group myself. Thank you for listening. Please comment below, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to me